Well, hello everyone. Wanted to do something a bit different today. Sunny day in autumn in the UK, so I thought I'd get out and do a bit of recording outdoors. What I want to talk about today is I'm going to call the great illusion or the grand human illusion. And this isn't mind control, it's not a conspiracy theory, it's not, I'm not going to rant about politics, I'm not trying to start a revolution. I'm really talking about self-knowledge, I'm talking about who we really are. I'm talking about the greatest wisdom that human beings have that's been passed down to us through the great wisdom traditions, whether that's Buddhism or Hinduism, even Judaism, contemplative Christianity. All the great traditions refer to this in one way or another. And what is this great illusion? When it really comes down to it, what is it really all about? The great illusion is that human beings is that things are separate from us. So basically it feels like when you're walking around, when you're living your life, when you're experiencing your emotions, when you're experiencing the body, when you're even out for a walk, when you're sitting down, when you're with people you know, this is so all-encompassing that it's why it's called the grand illusion, because it's so fundamental to who we are, that it basically feels like we're on one side of our body and the world and everyone else is on the other side. And it's not just that, it's actually that our body is even on the other side. We're even disconnected from the body. When we feel something, we hear something, we see something, as we're in the world, as we're moving around within the world, it feels like everything is separate from us. I want you to realise that nothing really is separate from you. And I don't mean that in some hippie way about how we should all love each other and we should all form a circle and hug each other and whatnot. What I'm saying is that fundamentally, in your first person experience, in the most basic experience that you have, which is just your awareness, it's your consciousness, it's your senses, it's your body, it's your mind, that fundamentally you believe that you are somewhere and everything else is outside of you. This is why it's called the grand illusion, because imagine as humans, we are fundamentally confused about who we actually are. It's part of the human operating system. It's part of human physiology, it's part of human biology, it's part of human psychology. All of it, our entire orientation towards life is built around this illusion that we are somehow, everything we're experiencing is separate from us. And I use the word illusion very carefully here because talking about this with someone I'm very close to last night, I came to the conclusion that it's like an optical illusion. Have you ever seen these optical illusion books where you get, well, it doesn't need to be a book, that's kind of old-fashioned, but a picture, and it's an optical illusion, and you're looking at it one way, your usual way of seeing it is to see it one way, to only see one side of it, or to see the image in a certain way, and that is the optical illusion. And then once you see the other half of that, once you see through the illusion, once you see what the picture actually shows, or what it hides, you realise that the picture never changed, it was simply your perspective on the picture. That is the same when you realise that nothing is fundamentally separate from you. Because nothing actually changes. Your body, I'm not saying that it doesn't change your life, it definitely does change your life, but nothing has to change. Like, you don't need to feel a certain way. The weather doesn't have to change. Other people don't have to change. The world doesn't have to change. Your psychology doesn't necessarily have to change. What changes is simply the perspective. It's simply the sort of angle that you're looking at it from. Now obviously this angle is not just like a visual thing. It's your entire way of perceiving the world, and not just, I'm not talking about mental perception or even sight, just sight. I'm talking about the entire experience of being alive, the entire body, entire mind, the entire visual field, all your senses, absolutely everything that you use to experience the world. It's a fundamental shift in perspective, but it's one that doesn't require that anything changes. It's just a switch in perspective that happens. And we were having this interesting conversation, me and the person I'm close to. If we are fundamentally not separate, how is it possible that we don't realise it? And to me, the easiest way to answer that question, well, when I ask it to myself, how do I not realise? It's simply because my whole way of looking at life was wrong. The whole way of looking at myself and how I fit into life is completely wrong. Like, fundamentally, my perception was flawed. And it's like, it's basically the same as asking, how could you not see how could you not see through the optical illusion if the actual picture hasn't changed? And it's because there is simply just there's a latching on to one perspective, and there's a sort of just a complete ignorance of the other perspective. But this is the grand illusion. It's not just a little optical illusion. It's not just, oh well, okay, cool, I've seen that, now we'll laugh about it, we'll move on. This is fundamentally your entire approach to life. It's all wrapped up in this illusion of feeling separate from everything. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of what life is and what you are. And if we're walking around misunderstanding that, then my bets are that we're not going to get very far. And I'm not saying this realization will solve all your problems, or it'll solve humanity's problems if more and more people become awakened, enlightened, spiritually awakened, realizing non-duality. I think it contributes, but I don't want to be naive about it. I don't want to be sort of like a revolutionary. I'd rather revolutionize my own perception rather than trying to, change the political world or whatever. But isn't that amazing that there's 8 billion of us, and this fundamental illusion, this grand illusion, 99% of us are operating under it. And even the 1% of people who have seen through it and have understood that nothing is actually separate from them, they're still not there all the time, or a very small percentage of that 1% is. And it makes me ponder, wow, how much does this influence every single thing that we do on this planet? And how much does it influence my entire life? What's the takeaway from this? Is to just, whenever you feel like you're separate and you're in this little cage and you're hurting and things aren't going your way and you're sort of scared and you feel like you did as a child and you feel sort of exposed and a bit silly or whatever it is, when you feel fundamentally sort of disconnected, you have to sort of, I'm not saying that just watching this video is going to help you see this, but fundamentally realize that nothing is separate from you. None of your emotions, your body, your mind, all your thoughts, your self-image, none of that is separate from you. Even if there feels like there's a great hole inside of you, that great hole is inside of you, and actually it's contained in this bigger fullness, which is the fullness of who you actually are. So yeah, how do you actually realize this? It sounds lovely to say, it's an instant realization, non-duality is instantaneous and there's nowhere to go and you don't have to meditate. I don't think that's true. I've been nearly meditating for nearly a decade and I've racked up many hundreds of hours. My biggest suggestion would be meditation or some kind of other serious spiritual practice. Without it, you're going to be stuck in this grand illusion for the rest of your life, and you'll never step outside to see what life could be like without living under that illusion. Great. Thanks a lot for joining me. Have a lovely day, wherever you are.